Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Welcome in wherever you are watching or listening live or on demand. This is the Makeshift Managers Podcast. I'm Austin. That's Devin. I can't, Grant's below me. I can't. That's like a headbang. That'd be just weird. Grant, how's it going, dude?
Pretty good. How are you guys?
It's been a day, but we're 10 days away from opening day. So, who's
Big
counting?
bright side.
Me.
Yeah.
I'm counting.
I'm just another day, another division, I woke up, didn't have an alarm, so today's a good day.
Honestly, those are the best days when you don't have to wake up to an alarm. Let me tell you. You know what you should wake up and do though? This is a bad. Just shave your nuts.
As we all know, hygiene is a very important part of everyone's routine. Whether you're in the big leagues or you're struggling in the minors, whenever you look your best, you play your best. And in the real world, you look good, you feel good, and feeling good is the ultimate outcome. So let me set the scene, Austin. Imagine shaving with the sleek, well-designed, and optimized trimmer that makes shaving time your favorite time in the bathroom. I know. Your eyes are closed, you're waking up, you get to the bathroom and you say, "Wow, I'm looking forward to shaving." And so, as you guys know, Austin and I are some of the first people that are actually able to try the new 4.0 Manscaped's Lawnmower 4.0. And personally, I've been blown away by the performance and the craftsmanship and the details on the 4.0. They're really next level. So, Manscaped actually engineered the ultimate groin and body trimmer by focusing on intelligent functionality and an incredibly comfortable grooming experience. The fourth generation trimmer features a cutting edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin safe technology. And whenever I'm dealing with my skin, I prefer to be safe, Austin. It's just me. You can speak for yourselves, but skin safe sounds good to me. And with that, I feel confident shaving my boys. And so, the upgraded trimmer also features a multifunction on and off switch that can engage a travel lock, and it also gives you the ability to turn on the 4000K LED spotlight on and off because, seeing is believing. And whenever you need that extra light for the more precise shave, you can click that thing on. The Lawnmower 4.0 even allows you to customize your trim through additional guard lengths that are sized 1 through 4. So, if you like it a little bit shorter, go for a 1. If you don't care about the length, don't use a guard. Simple as that. And I would be amiss if I did not mention the wireless charging of the trimmer. For me, everything in my life, for the most part, even my phone, do you just set it and forget it? It charges. Whenever you need it next, it's ready for you. So wireless charging, a big positive on this trimmer. And so, men, if you've been shaving with the same nut trimmer on your face, you've been doing it wrong. No person wants to end up with pubes in their mouth. Am I right, Austin?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm right on that one. And so it's time to get your own ball hair and body trimmer with Manscaped to make me time the best time and enhance your confidence with some nice, smooth boys. So, as I've said before, visit manscaped.com and use code TMSM for free worldwide shipping and 20% off your order. And thank you to our friends over at Manscaped for sponsoring today's episode.
Boom. It's just that easy. So now we'll start with some not so smooth boys, the Arizona Diamondbacks. Dodger fans, you're here a little early. Give us about 45 minutes. We'll get to the Dodgers towards the end. Awkward. Didn't mean to hit that. Use the code again if you saw it. All right. The Arizona Diamondbacks coming off I didn't pull up the standings before the show. It's been a rough day. Sorry about it.
They
went really, really bad. I can tell you
52 and 110.
There you go. 52 and 110. Not as bad as the Texas Rangers. Somebody always has it worse. So let me tell you about the Arizona Diamondbacks. Ketel Marte got an extension, and Madison Bumgarner likes to ride bulls in his off time. Anything else?
Grant, you can go ahead and lead with this one. I'll follow you up.
Yeah, I think there's some bright spots, but they're in one of the toughest divisions. So to try to win games in that division, it's kind of synonymous with the Baltimore Orioles situation. They're, a rebuilding team that's also in a division with teams that are all ready to win now. So they're gonna lose a lot of games, and it's not gonna be pretty for a while. But as Austin mentioned, they locked up their big piece in Ketel Marte for I think it was 5 more years.
Yeah, I think it was. He got like an extra 56
5 for
million over the
75.
length. Yeah, it
Yeah,
added 56
yeah.
million to the overall value of the contract.
Okay. Yeah, he's actually he's a really underrated hitter. I think he's been struggling with injuries the past few years, but he's pretty good. And then they've got some reliable, consistent bats, but nothing, insanely good. In like David Peralta's been there, done that, and Josh Rojas they got from the Marlins is been there. Oh no, I'm sorry, this is not the same Miguel Rojas is who I'm thinking of. Josh Rojas has been there, done that too, though, and he's been on the team for a couple years. He's a utility guy that they can play, and catcher Carson Kelly's pretty good. Outside of that, a lot of young guys with like Dalton Varsho, who's actually their catcher center fielder, so that's a good option to have and
Quite
fill
the
in.
combination.
Right, exactly. So it's a rare combination to have. I don't know. They just have like a bunch of utility guys that can play a bunch of different spots. Like Nick Ahmed's going to be their starting shortstop, but he could play all over the infield. Jordan Luplow was on the Guardians for a while, and he has some power. He'll be a good bench option for them. Yeah, but not much there outside of Marte, Peralta. Christian Walker is decent at first. Moving on to pitching, you got Mad Bum, who is, I mean, you know what you're going to get there, but he's been kind of struggling since he left San Francisco. So hopefully he can put together a good year. Merrill Kelly behind him is pretty solid, but again, nothing lights out. They did acquire Davies as a free agent, who is nothing great, but better than what they had. He's just a proven major league pitcher who can give you innings at the back end of your rotation. I'm high on Zach Gallen. I'm hoping he has a bounce back year. He was really good 2019 and I think part of 2020, but he's just been struggling with injuries as well. He's someone they acquired, I believe, in the Jazz Chisholm trade back in 2019. So he was a good prospect for the Marlins, and they traded for Chisholm, and the Diamondbacks had him, and he's proven that he's got the potential. So let's hope he can put that together and be a bright spot for this team, because like I said, there's not much more out there for them. I thought it was really interesting that they signed arguably the best closer last year in Melanson. So I mean, he's a great closer, but I don't think he's gonna be closing that many games because they're not gonna be in many safe situations. But yeah, they have Melanson, Ian Kennedy in their bullpen. Outside of that, nobody really stands out. So yeah, it's gonna be a rough year for the Diamondbacks. But I mean, at least you've got the Phoenix Suns to root for. So there's
There
that.
you go.
Yeah,
Come on,
I'll
Devin
toss it over to you,
Booker.
Devin.
Well, it's hot as shit in Arizona a lot of the time, and it's nice that they have something to cool off with because the Diamondbacks are not going to be very hot this year. They were one of the coldest teams in all of baseball last year. They had like 2 different streaks of like 20 straight losses or something like that. This team is bad, and while it sucks to be a bad baseball team, at least you can look at their form, and they've got a handful of guys that'll be coming up this year and next year. They remind me a lot of, I'm not going to say Oakland because Oakland actually can win with like minimal talent. But then again, Bob Melvin was a big factor of that. The Diamondbacks act like they need that manscaped code a lot of the time. They don't like paying players. They don't like paying top dollar to keep their roster at the height of its powers. Because if you look at the history of what the Diamondbacks have become over the last decade, they are a team that develops talent to a certain point and ships it off, hoping for a good return. I'm looking at you, Paul Goldschmidt. I'm looking at you, Starling Marte. The writing's on the wall. You can only be so good in Arizona before they sell you off for prospects and other players. And so I don't take this franchise seriously as a winning team. I think the days of Randy Johnson and Kurt Schilling and Luis Gonzalez willing them to World Series championships are long gone. We will be far amiss to see that happen again.
Never
in the next
forget
decade.
the 2001 World Series champions.
That was a great team. This is not a great team. Love Madison Bumgarner. As you can tell from my hat, Giants fan through and through. Bumgarner is a great pitcher. He might be a little over the hill. He's younger, which is surprising into how he's been so bad out in Arizona. But to be fair, it's not like the Diamondbacks are fielding an insanely great defensive lineup behind him. So it's not fully on him. Hopefully he can bounce back after the first 2-3 years being a bit of a struggle out in Arizona. I have high hopes for Zach Gallen. Essentially what they want to do, hopefully, is develop some of the younger guys, because outside of Ketel Marte and Zach Gallen, not a lot of this roster is going to inspire me to feel anything other than just kind of depressed. So hopefully their farm can kind of come up slowly but surely, and they can surround Ketel Marte and guys like Gallen and Bumgarner with better talent if they ever want to compete in this division. But it's smart what they're doing. They're not spending big, trying to get splashy big names to try and compete with the juggernauts that we're going to talk about later in this episode.
I mean, at least out of all the things they could have done, extending Marte was probably the best thing they could have done this offseason, because at least they sent the message that, like, hey, Ketel, we might suck for 5 years. It is strongly possible we're going to get our heads kicked in for 5 more years. But at least they're sending the message that they're willing to keep the best thing they have left. In terms of position player, Ketel Marte is the best thing they have left. It might be the only thing they have.
I think they signed him just to have leverage, because Marte is a great player. I don't know how much he would command on the open market currently. He's 28 years old. He's arguably in the prime, if not entering the prime of his career. And this team is 5-6 years away from even remotely being able to compete in the division. Yeah. So I see Marte as a trade chip 2-3 years down the road, if not sooner. Essentially, if they are dead in the water and some competing or contending team wants Ketel Marte, they are going to get a lion's share for this guy if he has a great start to the year. So smart move on their part. After watching them time and time again get rid of their best player for, like, not so much pennies on the dollar, because prospects are really hard to hit on, but you can only trade away talent so many times and not get back what you're looking for. So I expect Marte to be traded in the next 2 to 3 years. Arizona's eventually going to figure it out, but it is not the best time to be a Diamondbacks fan, especially whenever teams like the Padres got better because of their manager. The Giants are figuring it out with the front office and managerial combo, and the Dodgers have a checkbook bigger than the Fortune 500 company. So they're stuck between a rock, a hard place, and Merrill Lynch, essentially. That's what this division is.
All right, let's move on to the Colorado Chris Bryants, the Colorado Rockies. Devin, I'll let you start off the Colorado Rockies.
Congratulations, Chris. I hope you enjoy left field and deep pockets for the next 6 years, or whatever it is they paid you. Colorado pisses me off because at least the Diamondbacks suck. The Colorado Rockies have been good to competitive over the last decade or so. They had guys like Nolan Arenado, Carlos Gonzalez, Trevor Story, Ubaldo Jimenez. This has been a team that has been able to compete with the top teams in this division through stints and spurts in the last 10 years. What they refuse to do is commit to the fan base. It was the most puzzling move, in my opinion, for them to trade Nolan Arenado for a bag of rocks, essentially, and then let Trevor Story walk so they could sign an all-star third baseman, not named Nolan Arenado. Is Bryant better than Nolan? That's kind of a apples to oranges comparison. They do great things, but in different ways. The Rockies are just always this 1 step forward, 2 steps back kind of team. Their stadium does not help many a starting pitcher, if any. I like German Marquez. I think Kyle Freeland is a really good pitcher. It sucks that they have to pitch in Coors Field because the ball travels really fast and it gets out of there really quickly. Aside from those two, I'm not sure if I'm sold on any other starter in their rotation. I like Colome as the closer. I know he's a tad bit older, but I think his track record can speak for itself. Whenever he's on, he's a pretty good arm closing games. After that, I'm not finding. I've heard Julius Chassin. I've heard his name a couple times over the last couple of years. I think he's a pretty decent arm they have back there. But aside from that, Jordan Sheffield, I'm recalling. But besides that, I'm not really looking at a lot of names that I'm familiar with. I've heard Daniel Bard before. So they have a handful of arms in the bullpen that aren't super proven or reliable, but then the Coors effect can be taken into account. Offensively, they have some upside to a certain extent, but whenever your pitching is notably weak comparatively to other teams, you have to have a lot of offense to compete playing in Coors Field. Catcher, two guys that I've never heard of. First base, CJ Crone. I've heard of this guy. Haven't really looked into his stats too much. From what I've seen, I actually like CJ Crone quite a bit. He hit 281 last year, had 28 home runs. Maybe it's the Coors effect, maybe it's not. But second base, Brendan Rodgers. He's a serviceable MLB level second baseman. Ryan McMahon, Chris Bryant, and Charlie Blackmon are going to be the three guys that make this offense go to a certain extent. McMahon just got his extension from the Rockies. Bryant just signed on. And I think flipping Ramiel Tapia for Randall Grichuk will probably be an upgrade for this offensive unit, because Tapia really didn't fit playing out at Coors because he didn't have a lot of like fly ball tendencies. He was a lot of hitting the ball into the holes, hitting it on the ground, and using his speed to get on base. But outside of this lineup, whenever you're looking at guys like McMahon, Bryant, and Blackmon, I don't see any other major difference makers. I think CJ Crone will probably be pretty good, and Brendan Rodgers will play well enough, but this team is lacking the top end talent it's going to need to compete with even the third place team in this division.
Grant?
Yeah, I agree with you, Devin. It's a very frustrating organization. I would say it's probably the worst run in baseball, just from an ownership, general manager situation. They're just they just don't seem to care, because flat out they have the talent every year. They have a very good lineup every year. Even 2 years removed from trading their best player and then just letting Trevor Story walk, they still have a really solid lineup. I don't know if part of it is we can't compete with the Dodgers' money. We can't compete with, the Giants' analytical department, what it might be. But in 2018, they were second in the division, won the wild card game off of the defending champ Cubs, and then got swept in the division series because, again, they have no pitching. But their offense is there. Their offense is always in the top half of the league every year. So the fact that they take that offense and then just destroy it with their quality of pitching. Now, granted, there is the Coors effect. I understand all of that. But if you can get pitchers to hit or to pitch to ground balls, just have sign guys that have high ground ball rates, this would eliminate a lot of the effects that Coors provides for opposing teams. And there's no excuse for not winning, 75% of your games on the road if you really, want to have a shot at competing and going to the playoffs. So starting with their lineup, I mean, Blackmon, Bryant, McMahon, CJ Crone is a good 1 through 4. Signing Bryant, good for him. He got his money. He got what he deserved, especially after how the Cubs handled his when he was coming up as a prospect, and his service time manipulation was pretty bad. So with Story leaving, I think that opens up the door for a guy like Brendan Rodgers, who I'm pretty excited about. He was a first-round draft pick for them in 2015, so I think he has a good shot at proving what he's capable of. And signing the trade for Grichuk made a lot of sense because he didn't really have a whole lot of playing time in Toronto, and now he can just hit a ton of home runs because that's what he does. Jose Iglesias, former Tiger, really good defensively, really underrated defensively actually, but he's a really good defensive shortstop, so he'll give them that, which is good in Coors. But yeah, outside of that, they've got a couple upside guys. Connor Joe, I'm pretty high on. He's a good OBP guy, so I think he should start in the lineup in front of those guys like Blackmon, Bryant, and Crone. But yeah, you're going to get a lot of home runs, RBIs, lots of runs, high scoring games. But it's whenever this team's playing, it's always 10-8, 7-5, like a lot of high scoring games where it's like, oh, can our pitchers just prevent the other team from scoring a lot of runs too? Starting rotation, German Marquez has been there for a while, so he understands, how to get it done. But it's so they have Marquez, Kyle Freeland, Senzatella. Gomber's been there 2-3 years now. Oh, 2 years. So this will be his second season. But those first three guys have been there now for 3, 4, 5 years and haven't really proven it yet. Like I said, the Rockies don't go out and do anything to improve their rotation. They're just you know what, we'll stay with the guys we have. And they let John Gray walk. So it's if you want to improve, go out and sign a guy. But Yeah, the Rangers benefited from that. So it's just very interesting how they've handled situations like letting Arenado walk, but then 2 years later signing Bryant. When in reality, if they sign one really good ace and then two like subpar quality guys that are just good at making soft contact ground balls, this team would be totally different.
Yeah.
But having said that, you also look at their bullpen, and I'm with you, Devin, and don't really like any of their guys. Alex Colome is a proven arm, so I think he'll be good to close it down. But like the Diamondbacks, I don't think they're going to have a lot of save situations.
Yeah.
So it's a team that is going to beat you with offense, and that's about it.
I think.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Austin. Sorry.
I mean, they're kind of the team they've always been. They play to the Core's effect because they don't really have much of a choice. And yeah, they've never gotten like the ground ball type pitcher. Herman Marquez is a strikeout kind of guy. Same with Kyle Freeland. Even Senzatella gets a lot of strikeouts. Colome, like you said, is a proven arm. Daniel Bard's a cool story. That guy throws a lot of heat. Jalees Chassin has really nasty stuff. He just can't locate it to save his life. He's got insane break on some of his pitches, and I think he has one of the closest like release spots towards the plate, if I remember right, along with like Freddie Peralta. But yeah, he just has location issues. Yeah, it's really looking back, it was really weird to let Trevor Story walk unless we know something or they know something we don't. If they thought they could re-sign him, or if they ever had any thoughts of re-signing him, I don't know. It was really weird not to get some sort of haul for somebody like that, because I'm sure he definitely could have gone somewhere. And even if you lose the trade, now you have nothing. You didn't get anything for him. Now he's a Boston Red Sox. They just kind of have Charlie Blackmon's been there for a long time. Great hitter. Grichuk's going to hit a lot of bombs. Chris Bryant. His numbers are going to go up due to the Coors effect. Jose Iglesias is a decent hitter, but a great defender. Ryan McMahon is not set the bar extremely high. He's not Nolan Arenado, but he's played very well in Nolan Arenado's spot. He's not going to win 47 platinum gloves, but Nolan Arenado and Matt Chapman are the only guys who can do that. They went to high school together. Anyways. Brendan Rodgers, CJ Cron had a really great year. Elias Diaz and Dom Nunez are probably going to be splitting a lot of catching unless one of them takes off. Elias Diaz kind of took off towards the second half of the season in terms of power. We'll see what he does. But yeah, they're going to be the team they've always been. They think they can compete this year because of their signings, but their pitching is going to fall apart. They're not going to be able to stay in games, and their division is going to beat the crap out of them. They open with the Dodgers on opening day. I can't remember if it's in Coors or not, but if it's in Coors, dear Lord, somebody help the Rockies. Freeman and Betts and all those guys get to start the year at Coors. They're going to be MVPs after 3 games. It's going to be crazy. But this is your fourth place team. What did they finish last year?
They were right behind the Padres.
74 and 87.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Mid-70s wins, maybe 81, but they're not going to win 90 games. They can't compete with their division. Their division is too powerful now. Their division has gotten out of hand.
The Rockies are
offense.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good. My point wasn't that important.
The offense keeps this team in games, which is so maddening. If they had a competent front office, there would be something here. You watch, I mean, with the exception of like teams that have like elite bullpens where they can just shut the door and say, no, you're not scoring any more runs after the 6th inning. If they're playing these like middle of the road teams, they're better than most of these middle of the road teams because they can score first through ninth inning. And it's not a team that like, has any like flaws really offensively.
Yeah. The thing about the Rockies, and to Grant's point, I'm super surprised they didn't try and kick the tires on a guy like Syndergaard in the offseason before the lockout even started, because it's one thing that you're not willing to shell out the money for a Max Scherzer or for a guy like Kershaw and so on and so forth. But Noah Syndergaard was to be had in this free agent class. He wasn't going to demand top level money, and you have nothing to lose as the Colorado Rockies. They just don't take the swings that are necessary in order to field competent rotations. because you're not going to always get this can't miss guy in free agency. There's not always going to be a Justin Verlander on the market. You get what I'm saying? So the Rockies, it's the whole one step forward, two steps back. They're always playing the game with their lineup. We're like, okay, cool. We understand what these guys can do in this field. And so they don't have to do a whole lot in terms of revamping their offense because the stadium itself produces offense. But they're ignorant to the deficiencies that it creates for their pitching staffs. So they're putting guys in impossible situations and making them look bad to the point whenever they leave, they look great and nobody wants to go pitch there. So they don't take care of the pitchers, and the whole Coors effect, I feel like, scares off free agents at the same time.
Yeah. Alrighty. We'll move on from the Colorado Rockies. Going down to Slam Diego. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I am going to fall for the hype and say the Padres are going to win the West this year.
Ooh. Call
me dumb. Call me you're falling for the hype. I'm doing it one last time. I will fall for the hype one last time, and let me tell you why. We start at the very top of the rotation. You got Yu Darvish, Blake Snell, Joe Musgrove. You got Mike Clevenger coming back. You got Chris Paddock, Nick Martinez, Mackenzie Gore. Mackenzie Gore's probably going down to AAA. But let's start with those six. Yu Darvish, Blake Snell, Mike Clevenger. Three guys who could easily win a Cy Young Award. One of them has a Cy Young Award. Chris Paddock, really good his rookie years. Kind of struggled a little bit. But he is probably one of the better fifth starters to have in the league. I like Chris Paddock. I hope he finds it. Joe Musgrove, no hit the Rangers last year. Asshole. But has kind of found himself a little bit in San Diego. It's only showing me spring training stats. Damn it. How did he do last year? 181 innings, 11-9 with a 3.18 ERA. So not too bad at all. So 5 really decent stars to throw out every day. I could trust Yu Darvish to go out there as my number one starter. Blake Snell had probably one of the best Cy Young years in history. I don't know where that Blake Snell went. It probably got left in Tampa with Kyle Snyder like the rest of them when they leave Tampa Bay. But if Blake Snell can be who Blake Snell used to be, this rotation gets very dangerous. I expect Mike Clevenger to come back fully healthy and be just as good as he was before. You look at the bullpen, it's missing some pieces now, but you got guys like Emilio Pagan, Craig Stammen, Tim Hill, Nelson Lamet, guys who I really like. Lamet could even be in the rotation if Paddock or somebody were to get hurt or to fall out due to poor performance. I like Lamet a lot too. Catcher, you got Austin Nola, who they traded for last year. Dude has a ton of power, just needs to stop striking out. I do like Austin Nola, but he could easily start splitting time with Carantini or Alfaro or Campazano just because he strikes out at an alarming rate. First base, Eric Hosmer. Devin spent like 45 minutes telling me why he hates Eric Hosmer and why he wants him to die or something that.
Whoa. That's a little rich for my blood.
No, Eric Hosmer got a big contract, has underperformed said contract. He's a good left-handed hitter, but Padres have tried to shop him. I would really like to see a big year from Eric Hosmer to kind of fill in that spot. But with the addition of Luke Voit, I don't know how much time Eric Hosmer is going to get at first base or at DH. At second base, we're going to the Crone zone. Jake Cronenworth, really solid player. Dude, I'm just copying Dan Orville. I watched a ton of Padres podcasts last year, and that dude just yells random things at me. It's wild. Dan Orville's wild. I love that guy. But Jake Cronenworth, do like him a lot. Third base, you got Manny Machado, perennial MVP type player. Had a pretty good year last year, I believe. Let's see, 28 home runs, 106 RBIs. So yeah, the dude they signed. At shortstop, you would have Fernando Tatis Jr., but fucked up his wrist during the lockout. Couldn't get with team doctors to see what really happened. So he's going to be out for about 3 months, which is a huge blow to this team. It might be what stops them from winning the division if they get off to a really slow start. Left field, you got Jurickson Profar. I like Profar a lot. I have a special place in my heart as he was at one time one of the best Ranger prospects. Tore his shoulder completely apart. had a tough time in Oakland. He's a decent player, but I don't think he'll ever fulfill what his expectations were. Center field, you got Trent Grisham. I think Trent Grisham has found a good place in San Diego. He's a decent leadoff hitter. He's a good defender, despite what he did in the wild card game when Juan Soto tied it up and took the lead. Was that Trent Grisham? I'm pretty sure that was Trent Grisham. The poor man will never be able to live it down. But I think he's found a home in San Diego. Then right field, you got Will Myers. Will Myers has never fulfilled the contract that he was given in San Diego. He's kind of this big power hitter that kind of came out of Tampa Bay. 17 home runs, 63 RBIs last year in 146 games. So not really where you want to be. If this team wants to succeed, it'll be interesting to see Luke Voit get consistent at bats if he starts to homer a lot more or just completely falls apart. But if this team wants to succeed the most, I think they need the seasons from Eric Hosmer and Will Myers that they've needed the most, especially filling the void of Tatis for 3 months. When Tatis comes back, I expect him to be as electric as anyone has ever seen him. He will need to put this team on his back in order to get past the Dodgers and possibly the Giants if the Giants stay where they, kind of were last year. But yeah, Slam Diego.
Grant, if you want to go, I'll follow you up.
All right. I'm not as high on this team. So AJ Preller is one of the most aggressive, baseball ops guys, and he's basically sold his soul for the future of this team. It's kind of what the Rams have done in the NFL, except not as successfully. The Padres have just gotten rid of all their prospects for big name guys, and the big name guys are not panning out for the most part. Obviously, the Fernando Tatis trade is one of the most lopsided trades in the history of baseball in favor of the Padres, so they have that going for them. But he's now hurt and he's out for a third of the season, so you can't do much with that. And I was shocked to see them not be more aggressive once that news came out in the free agent market. Signing Luke Voit, trading for Luke Voit was a really good move. That'll be an added plus for them offensively. And I actually think Luke Voit would have been the best first baseman in the Yankees lineup. So take that as you will. I think he's very good and will, I think, go on kind of a revenge tour now because he's pissed off at how the Yankees treated him. Grisham's a good leadoff guy, good center fielder, really good defensively. He's, solid table setter for them. Machado is about as consistent as it gets. I think he's had 30 home runs or 100 RBIs in every season since like 2015. So it's really good there. Cronenworth is a fellow University of Michigan guy, so love him, love his versatility. Really, really cool story too, just able to work his way up the ranks, and now he's their starting second baseman, so good for him. But like, as I said, the big signing with Hosmer and Myers at the time was a big signing for them. They just have not, they kind of plateaued and haven't done much more since their first couple of years with the team. So they need a lot out of both those guys. They're relying heavily on both of them with Tatis out. They also just today traded for Matt Beatty from the Dodgers, which I think is a little bit under the radar. He was a top prospect. He's supposed to be pretty good. Surprised the Dodgers actually gave them the Padres because, there's a little animosity there. So that'll be interesting. But they've got good catching options in Nola and Carantini. And then it looks like Jorge Alfaro is now going to be an outfielder, which is I always find interesting when catchers can also play in the outfield. So they've got decent depth, but with Tatis out, their offense is going to struggle. I mean, he's not only their best player by far, but he's like the rah-rah guy in their clubhouse. So it's going to rely a lot on Machado. I think Voigt's going to bring some added, swagger to the team. So I think they're still going to be a fun team to watch. And San Diego will be Slam Diego again because they'll hit a ton of home runs. But I think they're not going to score as much as people are thinking they will. Their rotation's still one of the best in baseball. If they can get Clevenger back to what he was when they signed him, I mean, I think he's the best in that rotation. He's just, a little bit unproven the last couple of years. So Musgrove, really solid, good year, no hitter. I mean, it says it all there. Darvish has about 20 different pitches that he can throw at you. I don't know how anyone can hit that guy, really. I'm surprised he doesn't have more strikeouts. So I hope he has a good year. He struggled a little bit last year. And Blake Snell, I think, kind of had, I don't know what his issue was last year. I think the moment got a little bit too big for him in some situations. You know, the whole story that we all know where he got pulled in the World Series where he shouldn't have, and you know he wanted to take it back out on the Dodgers every time he played them, and I think that got in his head a little bit too much. So hopefully he can simmer down and go back to his roots because he's really solid as well, and he's going to need to be relied upon being the only lefty in their rotation. So big role for him too, stepping up. So I hope he can have a good year. Their bullpen is interesting. I don't think it's that great. I think it's solid, but I mean, when you're playing against teams like the Dodgers and Giants, a lot of the season, you're gonna have to have guys that can lock the door down. And I think Denilson Lamet is really solid. I mean, let's hope he could be a good closer. I don't think he's had a whole lot of experience doing that. But yeah, I think this is a team that's in a tough division. They're going to struggle again. I wouldn't be surprised if they're 500 or right around there. I don't see them making the playoffs either, unless Tatis recovers quicker and just, you know, scorches the earth when he comes back and gets this team vibing. Then they might surprise me. But I would say wild card team at best.
Yeah, that's where I have them personally. I agree with Grant. So a big thing for me with the Padres this year, and the one thing that cannot be emphasized enough is the Padres got the best upgrade of the offseason in terms of just managerial talent. Moving on from Jace Tingler and getting Bob Melvin it's an insurmountable change that we should see immediate impacts as the season starts. But to be fair, although Melvin was able to make he was able to basically make pearls out of he made diamonds out of coal in Oakland a lot of the time. And him starting off his tenure as the Padres manager without Fernando Tatis Jr. is an insurmountable task, especially whenever you look at the depth chart this year. At shortstop, they have Ha-Seong Kim, who could not seem to find the bat at the major league level last year. For the life of him, he batted 202. If he's going to be slotting in as the everyday shortstop and batting 202, it's not going to be enough to keep them afloat while Tatis is out. And CJ Abrams is the other alternative because Cronenworth cannot play both spots in the middle infield. It would be different if they didn't trade Adam Frazier and they had Cronenworth and Frazier for the middle. But moving on from Frazier right now looks like a terrible idea in terms of Preller. He didn't know Tatis was going to be out, and we all know this because if Tatis was going to be out for 3 months, you do not move on from Adam Frazier. That was a complete downgrade for the middle infield in my eyes. And from everything I'm seeing, CJ Abrams has been projected as a 2023 start for his pro career, and they may have to throw him out there at 20. He's about 21, 22 years old right now. So he was born in 2000. So he's 21 years old. And if you're going to have to throw out CJ Abrams as an everyday starter for this lineup, I expect nothing but struggles from the guy. He's insanely young and he hasn't even seen the big leagues yet. So for them to replace Tatis's production is going to be impossible, not improbable. It is not going to happen. If this team is going to compete with the Dodgers and Giants, if they start out the way I think they are going to start, Manny Machado is going to have to be an MVP. I mean, best player in baseball type stuff. And for me, as great as their rotation is on paper, I am not sold. Everybody came into last year saying, holy shit, look out for the Padres. We looked out and shit didn't add up. Darvish is a great arm in a vacuum, but genuinely looking at this rotation, for all of the namesake and brand name pitchers they have, do they have a real one? Is there a real number one in this rotation? That is my question. Because Darvish was great for stretches in Texas. He was great in that shortened season out in Chicago. But last year, Darvish didn't give me what you need from a true number one starter. Blake Snell hasn't been Blake Snell since 2018. We're going year 4 after that Cy Young season, and he has not proven it to me. As special as he can be in stints, his career ERA is sitting right now at 3.42, and he's coming off of 4.20 last year. And with lineups like the Giants and the Dodgers and even Colorado, he's going to get hit around if he's not going to be careful and actually step his stuff up. And I agree with Grant whenever we're talking this rotation. Clevenger's arguably the best arm they have. And if Clevenger can slot in as the one and pitch to the potential that he has shown in Cleveland and partially in 2020 with this Padres unit, maybe they have more upside. But I'm not going to push all my chips in like some high stakes gambler, betting on the combination of Darvish and Snell as the number one guys. And then whenever you're talking about Paddock as a fifth guy, that's great. But through stretches, Paddock might be their third best starter. It's if the Padres want to push this division, they are going to need things that they have not had since Tatis has been on their team: health and consistency. And with what I'm seeing in terms of the depth and the pieces they have, I don't see a reality where that happens. Tatis is out for 3 months. You're not getting that time back. Hosmer, in my opinion, and yes, Austin, I will die on this hill, I think the Hosmer contract actually set them back 3 to 4 years. And you can be an Eric Hosmer fan, does not take anything away from his time with the Royals. He got paid like a top 5 first baseman. And if you look up the numbers throughout the peak of his career from like 2013 to 2018, he was a borderline top 10 defensive guy, and he was not even top 10 with the bat. So he had a really advantageous free agent run where Carlos Santana was the only first baseman around him. So he got paid. But Preller has rolled the dice time and time again. And like I said with the Tampa Bay Rays earlier in this whole string of podcasts, seeing is believing. And I for everything I want to say about the Rays, I'm not going to bet against them until they prove me wrong. I'm not betting on the Padres until Bob Melvin and AJ Preller prove me wrong, because the track record speaks for itself. This is a team that always has top end talent and finds a way to mess it up. And so get better, Tatis, and hopefully their rotation can be what we all expected it to be last year. Because if it's not going to be that, I don't know if their offense has enough to compete with the Dodgers, and I don't know if their analytics department has enough to actually keep up with whatever San Francisco's been doing for the last 3 years. It's a very competitive division, and I just don't see where their edges come from under current construction. They could make moves. Luke Voit is cool. He led the league in home runs in the COVID-shortened season, so that's nothing to shake a stick at. But even in the outfield, adding a guy like Matt Beatty is going to be big for them, because under the current construction of their depth chart, you've got Jurickson Profar in left, Grisham in center, and Will Myers in right. But there is no depth beyond that. You have 3 guys that are going to patrol the outfield for a full season. They need to add guys. The outfield depth scares me. Trading Adam Frazier really scares me. And if Ha-Seong Kim, and if the combination of Kim and Abrams can't field a league average shortstop, it's going to get really dark really quick.
Yeah, Bob will be up to the test yet again, but he does have talent in front of him this time. And it's funny, real quick, before we move on to the Dodgers, somebody said like, "Oh, Bob Melvin doesn't have the playoff accolades." Like, did you watch the Oakland Athletics during their playoff time? They ran into a team called the Detroit Tigers, who had a man named, I don't know if you guys ever heard of him, but his name's Justin Verlander. And that dude carved the A's over and over and over and over again. I'll never forget, in 2012, I believe, Game 5 in Oakland, Justin Verlander throws first pitch at the bottom of the first is a fastball, probably like 2 or 3 inches off the plate, without hesitation. The umpire, strike one. And I'm not hating on Verlander or the Tigers or anything, but immediately at that point I was like, this game's over. Verlander, the plate is 18 inches. Justin Verlander is about 23 because he's Justin frickin' Verlander. It's just kind of how it was. I'm not saying conspiracy theories or anything like that, but Bob took this team consistently and ran into the Tigers multiple times. A Tigers team who is just flat out a little bit better because their rotation was this godsend that just took him to the top. And let's not forget about, Miguel Cabrera and, I can't remember 10
Prince
years
Fielder
back.
was out there, right?
Is that too early? That's too early, I think. 2012?
I thought Prince Fielder was out there in 2012.
I think he was. It's hard to remember, but I get what you're saying. Can I add one thing?
Yeah. So
Preller, I mean, you can like him, you can hate him, but I mean, he likes to keep things interesting. Just I'm looking at a list of guys that he's traded away in terms of prospects who are now on major league teams: Eric Lauer, Luis Arias, Hunter Renfroe, Manuel Margot, Franchi Cordero, Taylor Trammell, Ty France, Austin Hedges, Josh Naylor, Francisco Mejia, I mean, I could keep going. I mean, they let Tommy Pham walk. So,
Yep.
I
Yeah.
mean, there's prospects and then there's big name guys like Mark Melanson they let walk, which makes no
Mhm.
sense to me because he was
Yeah.
the best. He was most saves in the league last year. And then, like you were mentioning, Austin, the Frazier obviously crystal ball. If you saw Tatis and what happened, then you would know to keep Frazier. But part of me also, I want to give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. And with this lockout, I don't think they. Who knows when this Tatis injury happened? And
Yeah,
honestly,
they had no
they
clue.
probably didn't have the. Yeah, they had no clue because they couldn't be in contact. So
Mhm.
in
I'm
a
not. Yeah.
so it's just really interesting. Like this is one of those teams that has just sold their farm for win now, win now, win now, and then the Dodgers are like, we'll do that too, but also keep our farm. So we're just
Yep.
going to consistently be better than you.
And I think a big thing for me in terms of the Padres is their aggression in selling really, whenever you chart it all out, looks pretty bad in my eyes. As someone who's seen Josh Naylor play in person, I saw him hit a ball as hard as I've seen anybody hit anything in my lifetime. Granted, he broke his leg last year. I hope he comes back healthy, but I think Naylor in that Hosmer spot over the last couple of years is arguably an improvement in terms of just the power department. And so the Padres could prove me wrong. Tatis seems to be a generational talent at shortstop. He is as big ticket as it gets in the NL. But I don't know, and especially with guys like Machado having to be the leader in the locker room, which he has been great over the last couple of years compared to his time in Baltimore and especially in LA. But if things get bad, this is the kind of locker room where shit can get toxic really quick. People can start turning on each other very quickly. And you've got a lot of guys that are new to the team and new to the culture. Who knows? If they start out struggling and Luke Voigt isn't playing well and Machado goes after him, it could be a wildfire very quickly. So the sooner they get Tatis back, the better off they are. And they're gonna need that rotation to be. The rotation will have to be worth every penny they're being paid in order for this team to stay afloat. Because the bullpen, I'm not sold on. The rotation has to win games, and Manny Machado has to be that guy, which he can be. I think Machado is a top 5 third baseman on the planet right now, but it's a lot to go against them going into the opening day. It's an uphill battle for sure.
Righty, let's get to the Los Angeles Dodgers. Grant, start with the super team that is the Doyers.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to believe that we're not talking about them last because they finished a game behind the Giants. That's just how good this division is. And they somehow got better, I think. It was hard to watch Corey Seager go. He's one of my favorite players. And I think he's one of the better players actually in that lineup. Just super young, super good hitter. But the fact that they took the 2018 one of the players from the 2018 Red Sox championship team, added them. 2019 and Trey Turner added him, and then the 2020 MVP, 2021 World Series champion Freddie Freeman, and added him to their already stacked lineup is just, it speaks for itself. I mean, your top three guys are I mean, Trey Turner hasn't won MVP, but we all know he is an MVP caliber player. So you go Betts, Freeman, Turner as your first three. But oh, wait, you also have Max Muncy, who hits 30, 35 home runs every year, and Will Smith, who I think is the best catcher in the league and really underrated. Justin Turner, who is, their linchpin. He's been doing it for a long time, and he's, just the clubhouse leader. Chris Taylor, probably the best utility player that's been around in the past 3, 4, 5 years. I mean, he's super clutch. Had that clutch home run in the wild card game last year. And then I don't want to bash on him too much, but Cody Bellinger is one of the most frustrating players in baseball. He has potential to be the best player in this lineup. He's just in his head right now, and we're seeing that in spring training. So if he can get back to where he was in 2018, I mean, this team, I think, is unbeatable. And then you have AJ Pollock, who, like we were talking about, was part of the really good Diamondbacks teams with Goldschmidt, and he's just a good. I mean, he's a Gold Glove outfielder who's going to be batting cleanup or batting ninth for them. So, I mean, I could go on and on about this lineup. This lineup is the best in baseball. You throw in Gavin Lux, Chris Taylor and him are probably going to split time. Gavin Lux is had about as one of the top prospects, so hopefully we see his potential. A full year of him will be really cool. My one concern with this team is their rotation. They didn't really add anybody, and I think it was because they were focused on locking up Freddie Freeman, which is totally understandable. But Walker Buehler is really solid, still only 27 years old, and he I think had top 3 in innings pitched last year, which is really something you can rely on and good to have to start your rotation. And then to bring back Kershaw was just, I think, a big move for them, just because he's been the face of the franchise for a decade now, and when he's on, he's still one of the best in the league. He may not give you as many innings, he may not give you as many strikeouts, but he can still pitch to contact and know how to get guys out and keep you in ball games, especially when you have an offense that's going to score 4 to 5 runs every night easily. And then I think one of, if not the most underrated pitcher in baseball, and Julio Urias is he's one of the young guys that's winning games like no other. I think he had 20 wins last year, and he's racking up the strikeouts as well. And just to have a young right-hander in your rotation with Buehler and then a young lefty is pretty valuable. So those three going to be hard to beat, and this team's going to add at the deadline if they need to. So I wouldn't be surprised if they got someone like a Max Scherzer at the deadline just to add to that rotation when they need it come the playoffs, because this team will be in the playoffs. But yeah, after that, Gonsolin is a hyped up guy. I hope he proves his worth, because he's been talked about as like someone that should light the world on fire. And then they have Heaney in this rotation right now, but I do not see that happening, because he's so home run heavy. He just pitches to hard contact, and I really don't even see him staying on this team for the whole season. So that'll be interesting. But they do have Dustin May coming off Tommy John, so he'll be there later in the season, and he's really exciting. Bullpen's one of the best. I mean, they lost Jansen, and they're still one of the best. So that speaks to their depth with Blake Trinan, Daniel Hudson. Gratterall he can throw it as hard as about anybody in the league. And then you've got guys like Tyler Anderson and David Price, who are former starters, who can give you 3-4 innings if you need it. Or if Heaney's struggling, you can have him be like a opener with a long middle reliever type situation. So they have a lot of flexibility with this bullpen. And I don't think Dave Roberts gets enough credit. I mean, now granted, he's been given a really good lineup every year. He's been the manager, but I think he's a really good in-game manager as well, and knows his guys and knows the situation. So I hate to say it, Devin, but I think this team wins the division, and I think they're one of the World Series favorites at this point.
I'll follow up, Grant, and say I don't disagree with anything you've said. As a diehard Giants fan, it pains me to talk about the Dodgers in a good light, but I'm not a homer. I'll be as realistic as I possibly can in these predictions. My Padres prediction
50 wins, 110 losses.
My Padres prediction is not just because I hate Eric Hosmer. I just don't have faith in the Padres wholeheartedly, because I've seen it before and it's happened before. The Dodgers are essentially that meme of Thanos. They are inevitable. They have the money, they have the talent, they have the farm, they have the players. It's everything. And I think the biggest problem they're going to face this year is probably Dave Roberts. He's already put his foot up his ass to start the season saying, yeah, we're going to win the World Series. Makes no sense to do that. I was like, okay, I'm going to invest in my Giants division champions gear at this point, because you don't set up bulletin boards like that before the season even starts. Like Grant said, the starting pitching is concerning to a certain extent. Buehler and Urias is one of the most exciting 1-2 punches in terms of youth and talent that baseball has to offer as starters. Clayton Kershaw as your number 3 is arguably the best number 3 you could ever have. I think Clayton Kershaw, for all of the struggles in his playoff career, is arguably the best pitcher from 2010 onward in terms of his track record. His numbers equate to that of like Hall of Fame, like greatest of all time type pitchers. His numbers speak for themselves. Not sold on Heaney. Hopefully Gonsolin can be good. Well, hopefully he can't, for the Giants' sake. Dustin May scares the shit out of me. If Dustin May can come back and do what he was doing the last 2 years, after Tommy John this year, he's arguably one of the most scary 4 or 5 guys the league has to offer. Dustin May is disgusting on the mound, and Austin and I have a history with Dustin May. We love you, Dustin. We're sorry for the award in our earlier days, but
It's not Dustin's fault. He just has a face where we want to fight him.
it's not his fault. Yeah, Dustin May, if he can come back healthy, this rotation gets downright ridiculous. And like you said, the bullpen speaks for itself. You got Trinan, Gratterall, Danny Duffy, David Price, and it's a murderer's row. Dave Roberts has a treasure trove of arms he can toss out if somebody struggles in the first 4 innings. It's going to be tough to hit off of this team inning 1 through 9. And as you said, this lineup is bonkers. I agree. I think Will Smith is arguably the best catcher in baseball at this point, if not the best, severely underrated. He isn't a super assuming dude. He's only 5'10", but he hits for every inch of that body. And I think he's a glue guy for this lineup. Whenever Will Smith is on, this team is usually firing at all cylinders. And yes, adding Freddie Freeman is like, I can't even quantify it. It's like Thanksgiving dinner, but instead of like having a normal turkey, you have a gold-plated one with like gold leaf. You don't need it, but it's cool to have. So Freddie Freeman in this lineup, it's bonkers. He was the 2020 MVP. He's a World Series champion. I get why Atlanta didn't bring him back. He's 32 years old. Maybe his best years will be behind him eventually. I'm going to start referring to him, as Braves fans do, as the Dodgers first baseman, because that whole Alex Anthopoulos saga with the Dodgers first baseman was just bonkers. I think they both mishandled it. Whatever, he's a Dodger. Congratulations, LA. You got another first baseman. Max Muncy, dude's got a big stick. It's just crazy because they can field lineups however the hell they want to. They lost a guy in Corey Seager, who I thought was arguably one of their best players over the last 5 years. Super consistent whenever he was healthy and had crazy power for his size. The one player that I think is probably better than Corey Seager at this point is fucking Trey Turner. Trey Turner hits 300 in his sleep. He steals bags like no other. He is the number 1 pick in fantasy baseball for a reason. He is a living stat sheet, and they got him with arbitration still left on his deal. I will never forgive the Nationals. They know what they did. That deal was complete dog crap. But I digress. Trey Turner is a Dodger, and they have control over him. He is the ultimate replacement for a Corey Seager. I think they lose little to nothing, maybe a bit in the power department, but defensively, speed-wise, and average, Turner's everything that Seager could provide, and even more. Justin Turner is about as consistent at third base as you're going to get. He had some MVP nods a couple years back, I believe, with the stats he was putting up. The outfield, they have a treasure trove out there as well. It's one thing whenever we're talking about the Padres having like Grisham and Myers, and I think Profar was the other name out there. This is a team that's featuring 2 former MVPs in the outfield. You've got Bellinger, Betts, Taylor, or even Gavin Lux out there. And Gavin Lux, for as little time as he's gotten to start his career, he was buried behind dudes like Seager, Kike Hernandez, and other bigger names in their organization. And I think Gavin Lux will hit the majors and actually be pretty darn good. But my biggest thing with the Dodgers, and on paper, as of right now, they are the favorites in this division. I cannot contest that statement. But Cody Bellinger's performance will determine the variance this team faces throughout the 2022 season. I don't know if the 2018 Bellinger is going to come back, but I have the same cautious optimism that I had for Yelich for Bellinger. Bellinger is younger, not dealing with the back issue, and it seems more mental. But if this Dodgers lineup gets 80 to 75% of MVP Bellinger, they're unbeatable. But if he hits for 185 again, it's going to probably put a strain on this team where they're going to be beatable at times. But a full season of Bellinger being at his best, 1 through 9, this lineup is unstoppable, and their pitching is going to have enough in terms of their starters and that bullpen. This is what the Dodgers have been building towards over the last decade plus. This is the end game. We're in it now. And we're probably not going to get out of it for the next 5-6 years because the farm is still loaded. So congrats, LA. I still hate you, but you guys are looking really good to start the year.
Yeah, I mean, you look at this team, and they nearly made the World Series last year, and Mookie Betts only hit 264, 23 home runs, and 58 RBIs. That's not the Mookie Betts we expect at all. That's probably half of what we expect. I expect 46 home runs and 120 RBIs. Mookie Betts having a down year, and the team still being that good. Cody Bellinger looks completely lost at the plate. Believe he struck out 9 times in a row so far this spring. I don't know if it's shoulder. I don't know if it's mental, but it's gonna be big for the Dodgers for him to be in the middle of that lineup, probably like 5 or 6, probably lower if he continues to struggle. He'll probably be 7 or 8 at this point. Pretty much, you guys have hit everything right on the head. This Will Smith doesn't go around hitting people, so that's pretty good.
Oh shit!
Well, he hits people. But no, so the biggest concern for me is the starting rotation. Walker Buehler, Julio Urias, Clayton Kershaw. I don't expect Kershaw to make 35 starts.
Mhm.
I expect Kershaw to miss time because he's old. He has a bad back. I don't expect Julio Urias to go 20-3 again. He's a very good pitcher, but to set a bar very high, I expect to go down just a little bit. Walker Buehler, I expect him to be kind of in the same spot he was last year. He went 16-4, 2.47 ERA. If his ERA rises to 3, I'd be a little surprised, but I expect him to be around there. But past that is where you have the problems. The Tony Gonsolins, the Andrew Heaney's. David Price hasn't looked himself ever since the World Series. Tyler Anderson is a serviceable number 4, but the back end of the rotation is where they're going to need help. Their bullpen should be just fine. Trinan will probably be closing out games for the most part. Gratterall, Bickford, Vesia. You got Mitch White, Victor Gonzalez, Daniel Hudson, guys who put out good numbers last year. I expect them to be in the same spot they were last year, competing in the DS and the CS. And, the Braves kind of almost, in my opinion, upgraded at first base the way it looks. So it'll be interesting. I totally expect those two to meet in the championship series again. But I need to see the back end of the rotation get bolstered or see some sort of improvement from Heaney or Gonsolin or Price or Anderson, because winning 3 out of every 5 games is nice, but you need to be going on streaks when you're this good of a team. Regardless of how stacked the lineup is, it's still difficult to ask a team to score 5 runs a night. It usually just doesn't happen for even the best of teams. Usually you're in like the maybe low 4s, high 4s. But to score 5 runs a game is still very difficult. You have struggles here and there somewhere in the middle of your lineup. Everyone will struggle at some point, and sometimes they all struggle at the same time, and that's when you get in trouble. But yes, the Dodgers are easily the favorite in the division. There's no reason for them not to be. They've done literally nothing but improve from what they were last year, besides losing Max Scherzer for the most part. And Trey Turner has the best slides in baseball. So there you go. It's as easy as that. The coolest slides you've ever seen. And that's it. That's all the teams.
I
want to thank everyone for.
Man. And the Dodgers fans are like, "Oh wow, we won the division again. Cool." It's like, well, record scratch. Bet you're wondering how we got here, boys.
The 107-55 Gabe Kaplers, the San Francisco Giants. Devin,
still doesn't seem real. Still doesn't seem real whenever you say it out loud. Okay, so I'm gonna preface this off. Austin's favorite word for the next 25 minutes is going to be regression, and I get it. But what I'm going to say to that is numbers never lie. And like the Tampa Bay Rays have done over the last half decade and decade plus, is they trust the numbers. And Grant alluded to it earlier. The Giants analytics department has been on top of baseball for what seems like the last couple of years. And for everybody that's going to sing the praises of the Dodgers, you want to know who's leading our front office right now? The guy that built the damn mansion down the road, Farhan Zahidi. In Farhan, we trust. The Giants didn't make a lot of big splashes in free agency. That's not the way they do things. Not since we signed a guy named Barry Bonds back in the late 90s. And so I digress. This is a team returning a lot of what made this team special last year. And I know what you're going to say. Oh my God, Kevin Gausman left. You want to know who Kevin Gausman was before he came to the Giants? A middling starter. Now he's getting paid for 5 years, $110 million. Good luck out in Toronto. But for my lifetime, the Giants have done one thing and one thing great, and it is develop pitching talent, whether they're older. For anyone that wants to complain about Carlos Rodon and his injury history and not being consistent, I cite you Ryan Vogel's song. There is a historical precedent to everything that I'm going to be saying for this whole segment. The rotation does not have the top end talent of the Padres or the Dodgers. I trust the staff. Logan Webb showed last year that he could possibly be the number one guy for this rotation moving forward. Do I expect him to just be slotted in as the number one guy and we're hunky-dory? No. Logan Webb will probably have some times where he struggles this season, but his stuff is nasty and the talent is there. I think Carlos Rodon is one of the bigger bargains of the offseason in terms of starting pitching. It's a team-friendly deal. There's an out for Rodon after year 2, if I'm correct, and the money's not astronomical. Rodon was dominant for most of stretches of last year. He was in the Cy Young race for a good chunk of it. And then at number 3, we have Anthony DeSclafani. And at the 3 spot, I don't think I could really ask for anyone better than him. While he had a rough back end of the season, his start to the year was very promising. And if he can emerge with the same consistency to start the year this year and move forward with that, I'm happy with him at the 3 spot. And then 4 through 5, we have a combination of guys like Tyler Beede, Alex Cobb, Alex Wood, and Jacob Junis. They have arms to throw out there, and I think our top 3 will be steady enough and talented enough to keep us afloat in this division, especially if Tatis is out for 3 months. That brings me to the bullpen. Jake McGee is the closer, and outside of him, you have some names that have been proven at least last year and the year before. Guys like Tyler Rogers have nasty stuff and can actually eat some innings. I like Jarlin Garcia. I think guys like Camilo Doval and Dominic Leone are going to have bright futures in this bullpen. I know Camilo Doval gave up the series clinching run against the Dodgers, but that's not his fault. He was born in 1997. This is like a 23-year-old major league player that is only going to grow. He's 24 now. He's going to grow with the pitching department, and I think he's going to carve out a role for himself in this bullpen. Talent will not be an issue for this team this year. And while regression is bound to happen, we won 107 games this previous year. I don't expect it to be falling off of a cliff, Austin. I could see this team winning anywhere from 85 to 95 games with the talent they have amassed. Because my thing is, the biggest thing moving forward is Buster Posey being out. And if Brandon Crawford is really that guy again. Because Posey retired, now it's time for Joey Bart to finally be the guy we drafted him to be. Do I expect Bart to just light the world on fire this year? No. Do we need him to be a serviceable MLB catcher? Yes. So Joey Bart will actually provide a great amount of variance for the team based upon his output. But as I was talking about Eric Hosmer and how much I don't like him, Brandon Belt has been a better player than Hosmer for the entirety of their careers, just based upon numbers. Whenever he's healthy, at least, Austin. Lamont Wade Jr. provides depth at first base or in the outfield. Darren Ruff got re-signed. We have a guy like Wilmer Flores that we can platoon. The middle infield, while it's not star-studded with guys like Max Muncy and Trey Turner, we do have proven MLB players and guys like Tommy La Stella and Mauricio Dubon. Third base, Evan Longoria had a renaissance year last year. Do I expect the bat to be there as much? Probably not, but if he can stay healthy, he's proven to be at least an MLB average level third baseman for us. So Longoria is healthy. That's good. Crawford, he had a career year. I cannot argue against that. He finished top 5 in the MVP. Do I expect that to happen? No, not really. But if Crawford can be 70, 80% of what he was last year, that's an improvement for me. If he can bat 270 something and hit for 15, 16 home runs and drive in, say, 75 RBIs, I think that is a positive year for Brandon Crawford because what he lacks with the bat, he's made up for it over the course of his career with the glove. He's one of the best defensive shortstops at the position, even at his advanced age. The outfield, things get a little more interesting. We do not have a Chris Bryant type to throw out there and say, hey, give us stability with the glove and the bat. But damn, it feels good to be deep at least. Mike Yastrzemski, while he has struggled over the last couple of years, he came out of a cannon whenever he was a rookie. He's a bit older. I expect him to bounce back this year. And then with Austin Slater and Steven Duggar backing him up in center field, it's going to have depth to where if Yastrzemski does struggle, we have guys to pick him up. Lamont Wade Jr. is one of my favorite players going into this year. There were some advanced stats that people actually totaled up whenever Belt missed time, that Lamont Wade Jr. was essentially Brandon Belt light. He provided similar to as good production to Brandon in the times where Brandon couldn't play. And then you will still have Ruff and Slater in the other spots out in the outfield. So one other thing, Austin. The last thing I'm going to say about this team is while we did not sign a Freddie Freeman, we missed out on Trevor Story. We have a back-to-back champion we added to the fold for $6 million. And I'm not saying Jock Peterson's the lucky charm for the last 2 World Series
But
champions,
Jock Peterson's the
but
lucky charm.
Jock Peterson's a hell of a ball player. And being able to add him into the platoon out in left field is going to prove wonders for this lineup, because not only is he a lefty that's going to be hitting some splash hits to McCovey, his glove isn't terrible. And as a locker room presence, I think Jock Peterson is like, realistically, his value is insurmountable, because just the swagger he brings to a team. Like, I wanted to buy a pearl necklace during that Braves World Series run. Jock Peterson, for as much as I hated him as a Dodger, I'm very happy to see him in our lineup moving forward. So all in all, the Giants probably finish second place in this division, and that's even best case scenario for all of the teams. They're going to be between third and second place, no worse than third. But I optimistically am looking at this team and saying they can take second place in the division and have a shot to make the wild card and possibly do something after that. But whenever you're looking at Goliath in your division, it's going to be hard for any team to outpace the Dodgers, especially with what they've got going.
Grant, I'll let you go because I'm just going to be a Debbie Downer.
I think when you have a season like you did, where everything clicked and like they beat out the Dodgers, obviously by only 1 win, but still, there is going to be some regression. And while I don't think it's going to be as much as most people think, I still think that they're going to come back down to earth a little bit. But they operate very similarly, I think, to the Tampa Bay Rays in the way that they're run, very analytically driven, and they find value out of every player they have on their roster, which is something that a lot of smaller market teams should model their organizations after, because they first of all, they build from their prospects, and then they find value in lesser name guys, and then they exploit their advantages. So I really think when I saw Rodon go to the Giants, I think he's going to have even a better year than he did last year. Yes, there's injury history, and you can't predict that. So if that happens, won't surprise me. But if he stays healthy, I think he could be a Cy Young candidate, because the Giants are going to be able to just take what they saw in Chicago and just build on that. Logan Webb was one of the bright spots last year in all of baseball. I hadn't heard of him prior to last year, and he just came out and shoved, and he went toe to toe with the Dodgers in the division series, which was really impressive given it was like his first experience in the playoffs. So those two guys leading your rotation, and then like Devin said, you have DeSclafani, who's a solid guy, but outside of that, you have 3 to 4 guys that can just fill in the rotation and give you innings, like Alex Wood, Alex Cobb, Junis. They've all been there and done that. And I mean, they're professionals, major league players that can give you innings, give you strikeouts, give you what you need when it's needed. So that's very valuable. It's hard to predict this lineup because they just have a bunch of guys that'll just fill in where Gabe Kapler needs them. First of all, I'm a big fan of Gabe Kapler and what he's been able to do. I think he really shut up a lot of haters when he was in Philly. I think Philly was kind of, there's too many big names with Harper and JT and all of that, and I think it just got a little bit of ahead of himself. So he came over to San Francisco, reset, and what he's done while he's there is just proven that he's going to take what the front office and the analytical department gives him and use that in game situations. And he's not afraid to substitute any guy for anybody on the bench. And all of these players have bought in. And even, veterans like Longoria and Brandon Belt and Crawford, who are, most guys would be like, this is my team. I've been on this team for, a decade. I'm not coming out, but if there's a need for it, then they'll do it. And they all understand that this is, a team sport, and they're willing to win together, which is something that I think shouldn't be taken for granted. So you've got a solid infield with Longoria and Crawford over at short and third, and I think defensively it's top 5 in baseball. And then Brandon Belt, I think, is an extremely underrated bat. He's a really high OBP guy who gets hits when you need it. I think obviously the part they play in is a little bit power. It hinders some power, but I mean, these guys still make it work, and you can hit a lot of singles and doubles in that outfield. I do agree with the Jock Peterson signing. He's going to add a little bit of swagger that I don't think they had, because they did have a lot of those guys that, like I mentioned, will just come in and everyday grind. And I think they needed a little bit of moxie added to their team. So I think Jock's the type of guy that, will pimp a home run or talk back to a pitcher if a pitcher's jawing at your team. And it's a good guy to have in your clubhouse. I really do hope Joey Bart has a good season. I think rightfully so. Buster Posey blocked him from coming to the majors, but being a 25-year-old first-year guy in the league is interesting. So I hope he has a good start to his career, because he was highly regarded. I look at this team being a Tigers fan. In 2018, the Giants and Tigers had, I think, the same record, and look at where the Giants are compared to the Tigers in those past 4 years. The Giants were able to rebuild much quicker, add and see what weaknesses they needed, and then go from there. They've really done well in a short period of time, and I don't think that's going to stop with their GM and their analytical department. So this team is exciting. I think if they were in any other division but the Dodgers, they'd probably win the division. So that speaks to how strong I think they're going to do this year. I'll touch on their bullpen real quick and then pass it off to you, Austin. I think Tyler Rogers is extremely exciting. I think he's like that Moneyball pitcher. He has that underarm, sidearms throw that just baffles hitters. But yeah, this bullpen, it's basically a Swiss Army knife. You've got each guy knows their roles, are going to come in a high leverage situation when needed. And I think this bullpen has potential to give you 4 or 5 innings if a starter goes out there and doesn't do well. So I do see them also being active at the deadline like they were last year, and adding Chris Bryant. Wouldn't be surprised if they added another starter if it's needed. But I think it's going to be a really exciting race between them and the Dodgers. I don't think it'll be, as, neck and neck all the way down the line, but the Dodgers can't take a game off against this team because the Giants will beat them. So I think this is a wild card team for sure, and I think they could definitely surprise some teams in the playoffs if they're not careful.
Regression. No, I'm kidding. I can't. All right, so I'll just go through my biggest issues with the team in general, because this team is going to do exactly what the Giants have done before. They did it in 2010 to the Rangers. They did it in 2012. They did it in 2014. They are going to pitch their way to wins. That's what they do. That's what they're good at. It's not a bad thing. It's what they do. Carlos Rodon is a great addition, and to take Kevin Gossman, a middle kind of rotation guy out of Baltimore, and turn him into an ace, I can only imagine what they're going to do when they get an ace already. Alex Wood, Anthony Descafalani should be serviceable guys yet again. I expect their numbers to go down a little bit, but they do need to stay healthy because the rotation depth doesn't impress me too much. That's kind of where I feel a little ill. Alex Cobb had a really good year for LA when he was healthy last year. I think that was a really good addition. He's a very good strikeout pitcher. He kind of had a rough couple of years before LA, but coming off of a decent season for the Angels, San Francisco is a good place to go. The bullpen should be one of the best in baseball, as it usually is. Jake McGee, Jose Alvarez, Dominic Leone, Zach Littell, Tyler Rogers, just guys who really kind of came out of the woodworks for me last year and really did it. Where I have problems, Kurt Casale and Joey Bart, not my favorite dynamic duo. I don't see Casale as an everyday catcher, and I don't know what to expect from Joey Bart quite yet. Brandon Belt, health. I need Brandon Belt to stay healthy. That's the biggest thing. Brandon Belt has a big stick, walks a decent amount of the time, but he only played 97 games last year. I need him to play in the 140s, especially with the DH. They will have a better chance now to rest guys like Brandon Belt. That'll be good for the Giants. That'll be great for them if Brandon Belt can stay healthy. Second base, kind of a hole for me. I don't particularly love Wilmer Flores. I don't think Tommy La Stella will be ready by opening day. I love Tommy La Stella, but I don't think he's going to be ready for a little while. Evan Longoria, a shell of what he used to be, 36 years old. I really expect him to fall off. I don't know when that's going to be for him. Last year, he hit 13 bombs, 46 RBIs, only played 81 games. Health for Evan, just kind of not being an old guy. I really don't know what to expect from Evan Longoria. Brandon Crawford, easily one of the best defensive shortstops in the game. Had a huge year last year in terms of production, 24 home runs, 90 RBIs. I believe that's career highs for all those things, just setting career highs left and right for Crawford. So expect those numbers to go down a little bit. And then kind of the issue, Jock Peterson was a decent signing, especially with having a DH, a good left-handed power guy. Losing Buster Posey, obviously, we've all said it, is the biggest blow to this team and not being able to get somebody back like Chris Bryant. But the Giants did last year at the deadline what they were supposed to do. They grabbed star power. This team, like you said, they operate like the Rays. The Rays don't have star power and they succeed. But when I look at the Giants roster and I don't see star power, that's where it concerns me. And I'm objectively looking at this team as I know they have to beat the Dodgers. They have to win a lot of fucking games to beat the Dodgers again. And to beat the Dodgers, they need the star power. When I look at the outfield and I see Darren Ruff, Lamont Wade Jr., Mike Yastrzemski, it doesn't really, like, if Darren Ruff is like the everyday DH, I don't love it. I expect the DH to move around a lot, especially by a Gabe Kapler run team. Gabe Kapler is a very intelligent dude. The dude looks like he should be teaching me like physics at a college, the way he has his beard and his square glasses. And he's ripped, so I don't fuck with him either. He walked out of the locker room in a tank top one time, and I was like, nope, nope, not gonna fight him. Never will fuck with that man. And he made really good decisions last year. He made a lot of pinch hits that worked. And he's in a good spot. He's in a good analytic department that probably tells him, hey, this is the move to make, and the moves work. I think Kapler got a lot of shit in Philadelphia that he didn't deserve. I think he didn't get enough time in Philadelphia, and Philadelphia is a shithole. Not the city itself, but like the Phillies have been a shithole for a while and extremely high expectations. Do you think they love Joe Girardi out there? They don't.
No.
They don't.
Probably not, no.
They don't. But I think Devin's on the right track. 85 to 95. This team will finish over 500. I think they will be battling for the third wildcard spot because you kind of look at if you look at our division winners, we have the Brewers, the Braves, and the Dodgers.
Yep.
Objectively, for the most part. I know I picked the Padres, but let's just say it's the Dodgers. So then you got the Giants, the Padres, in terms of teams who we think can compete for the playoffs. You got the Cardinals.
And the Mets.
The Mets, and maybe the Phillies.
Maybe.
The Phillies are going to score a lot of runs, but boy, is their defense bad.
Aaron Nola's arm's going to fall off.
So you got 5 teams for 3 spots. I think 95 wins gets you in a wild card spot for sure, especially if the Mets are going to Met. The Padres don't live up to expectations. The Cardinals are a weird team, and the Phillies always disappoint. So the Giants should be right there in it. And it'll be a tough rotation to face in a 3-game series, let alone a 5 or a 7-game series. But I expect the Giants, if they're in it, I don't know who at the deadline is going to be. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think the best move for the Giants that I would like to see at the deadline, if they're competing, is Whit Merrifield. If they can shove Whit Merrifield at second base,
yeah,
I think that is Whit Merrifield doesn't have star power, but I think Whit Merrifield's a star. Great contact, great speed.
He's a giant for sure, if we could get our hands on him. There's a lot of those type of guys that this team historically has just plugged into the lineup, and they produce. One of my final points on the Giants, Austin, is last year was a magical run. 107 wins just doesn't happen. And I won't call it a fluke. And I think this team this year is probably the floor of what the Giants will be over the next 5-6 years. Because while we've gone over the pipeline for a lot of these teams, the Giants have a lot of talent that's slated to come up over the next 2 to 3 years. Some even next year. We've got the heir apparent to Brandon Crawford in the farm right now in Marco Luciano. And he should be in the bigs by next year, along with guys like Luis Matos. We've got Kyle Harrison in 2023, Will Bednar, Julio Ramos. there is talent coming up for the Giants. And I think it's why we didn't see them make any big splashes in free agency, because I think the youth movement is going to hit, and Bart is the first one we're going to see. So I've been rooting for Bart since we drafted him, and hopefully he's finally free with Posey retiring. Hate to see Posey go, but if Joey Bart's going to be able to come up and to finally produce at the big league level, I'm all for it. So go Giants, and I'm excited to see where the next couple of years take us, because the floor is the ceiling, in the words of Michael Jordan, and if everything goes right, they could be hoisting a trophy.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. It's Grant hit it on the head. I'm thinking about it more. He said they operate like the Rays, because you look at all the playoff teams. You look at the Dodgers; they are star power.
Yeah.
You look at the Braves, and they have Acuna, Albies, and now they have Matt Olson and Austin Riley and Dansby Swanson are becoming stars. And you look at the Brewers, who have stars in their rotation. Then they have Christian Yelich, who was a star, has regressed a little bit, could be a star again. Willie Adames is coming up super huge. Star power is kind of the thing you need to be in a spot. And the Giants went for it last year by getting Chris Bryant, got their star power guy. I would have to do a much deeper dive into who would be on the trade market by the end of this year besides every Oakland A. But I know Whit Merrifield was the first thing that came to mind, because I know he was in trade talks last year. But at this very moment, without doing a deep dive, I think Whit Merrifield would be a really good Giant. Grant, you got anything else? Do you want to Debbie down the Giants? It's a party. I'm kidding.
Yeah, I just think the way they've built a really strong foundation with the front office, and that I think is just as important as what you put out on the field. And as Devin said, they have guys in the waiting room that are ready to come up when it's their time. So if they can get groomed by the player development department and just continue to prove themselves in the minors and then hit their stride when they hit the majors, this team isn't going away. And obviously the Dodgers aren't either. So this is going to be an interesting 2 to 3 horse race in this division for, 3 to 5 years to come.
There you go. The NL West. Going to be a wild ride for everybody except for the Arizona Diamondbacks.
It's more like the NL best, Austin, at this point. This division is going to be an absolute just rock fight. It's gonna get ugly. Like, the Padres might win 85 games and miss the playoffs. Like, this division is full of just shout out to Colorado and Arizona for being there, but man, it's gonna be.
It's funny because I know Colorado thinks they can compete, and I don't want to take that away from them, but it's the same narrative every year. You're going to score a lot of runs. You are correct. Problem is, you're going to give up a lot of runs.
Can you blame them? They're probably all lightheaded from the air being so thin. They're just living their realities at that point.
All right. So, per usual, Grant, thank you for coming on with us and talking about our last National League division, arguably the best division in the National League, let alone baseball. Mm-hmm. Next week is the kind of finale. It'll be the AL West, my favorite time of the year to talk about how Corey Seager and Marcus Semien are the best 2 players to ever step on the planet. And then how the Oakland Athletics said everything must go, and I mean everything. The AL West is going to be a lot of fun. For sure, it's going to be a wild ride. The week after that, we're thinking about a week 7 in terms of we're all going to kind of get together. And it's obviously we've missed moves, like Kenley Jansen is a Brave, and stuff has happened. Stuff has happened while we've been, moving forward. So we might do like a week 7 to kind of break it all down for the final time, be like, all right, here are our division winners, here's our champions, blah, 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 blah. So we're thinking about that.
MVP picks too.
You can make MVP picks too. I'm thinking,
I think Carson Kelly's a lock for the Gold Glove.
Dalton Varsho.
If Julio Urias puts up another 20-win season, just give him the MVP. Puts up 25 and manager of the year. Dave Roberts already started polishing his trophy case for his manager of the year after his self-proclaimed World Series championship.
Yeah, that
Um,
was not a good move.
I like Dave Roberts, but he's had the questionable decisions in playoffs, mainly bringing in Clayton Kershaw, but you can't do that. Like, I know you're the Dodgers, but you have a track record of just like blowing it in seasons that aren't 60 games. Like,
I think
please.
he's trying to market a book, probably like titled "Coaching Through Adversity." He has to make his own adversity at this point to make people think he's a better coach or
You ever seen
manager.
that? I've been posting that SpongeBob meme where he's looking for the maniac, and it's Dave Roberts is the maniac looking for himself. Who said that? Who said we were going to the World Series?
So
yeah, it's like the jinx that he created on himself.
yeah.
Yep.
So my last thing is, I want to just clear the air. So we did this to Tony La Russa. I'm not going to say Dave Roberts is the worst manager in this division, but is he the third best manager in the NL West right now, with Kapler and Melvin occupying space, or is Roberts still top two? Because I think Kapler could be up there in terms of like the top dude after last.
I need this season.
I need Kapler to do it again. Right? Yeah. Because Roberts has almost a decade of having the best teams in baseball.
Technically, Dave Roberts is the best manager in this division. Like Bob like had all the adversity with Oakland, but technically the accolades aren't there.
I can't punish Dave for the rosters he's had, but I really want to at this point. I feel like the Dodgers have won in spite of Dave Roberts a lot of the time. But I'm a Giants fan.
Before we ramble on, we're gonna get on out of here. Giveaway next week, so watch for it. It'll be a lot of fun. Grant, as always, thank you. We will see you next week.
Yes.
We might have a late start time of around 6 Pacific time next week. We'll keep you updated in terms of Devin's party time.
I'm gonna be a year older, guys. One step closer to the great unknown. Am I right, guys? Woo!
All right, everyone. As always, thank you for listening, watching, whatever you may be doing. This has been the Makeshift Managers Podcast. I've literally never ended a podcast like that. So, Devin, take it away.
I have to do this one more time. It's like, damn it, he dropped the banner. Code TMSM at manscaped.com for 20% off and free worldwide shipping. I'm looking at you, Diamondbacks. But as always, from Austin and myself, thank you, Grant, for being on. And peace.